China sends its most advanced stealth jets to the border with India. A Communist Party insider criticizes Xi Jinping and gets expelled from the party. And US-China trade talks are postponed. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This week's China News Headlines. China has sent its most advanced stealth fighter jets to an airbase close to the border with India. Two Chinese J-20 stealth fighter jets were caught on satellite. They're at the Hotan Air Base in Xinjiang. It's one of the closest Chinese air bases to the disputed border with India, called the Line of Actual Control. Now, we're not sure if these are the only two J-20s at the base or if there are more. But China only has about 40 of these fighter jets in total. The Chinese regime has been moving more and more aircraft to its bases near the border with India. It comes after that deadly border clash back in June. Meanwhile, India has been sending helicopters to the region, as well as fighter jets to air bases close by. But because of the high altitude, these jets can have performance and equipment issues, though India has more experience with air operations in the mountains. Now, my favorite Chinese state-run media, the Global Times, says we shouldn't overinterpret it. Wait, what does overinterpret even mean? Well, it says the jets are there because the J-20 needs to fly in more regions to adapt. Yeah, you wouldn't want the fighter jets to get altitude sickness, right? This is Cai Xia. She was a professor at the Communist Party's top school, the Central Party School in Beijing. For clarity, this isn't a normal university like Tsinghua. This is a university designed specifically to train officials in the Communist Party itself. But this week, Cai was expelled from the Communist Party. Why? Well, she criticized the Communist Party and its leader Xi Jinping. Back in June, a 20-minute audio recording of Cai went viral in China. She said the party was a political zombie, and that's because of Xi Jinping. Although Cai doesn't name him specifically, it's pretty clear who she's talking about, especially when she said he has become a total mafia boss who can punish his underlings however he wants. Not that Cai is the first person to think this. She just got caught saying it. Lucky for her, though, her punishment was only being expelled from the party forever, including losing her retirement benefits, instead of being thrown in a hole somewhere and having her organs harvested. That's because she lives in the US now. But like everything relating to political infighting in the Chinese Communist Party, I'm approaching this story with a good deal of caution. As you know if you've been watching, the Chinese Communist Party has been locked in a battle for power between Xi Jinping and a faction tied to former Chinese leader Jiang Zemin. So when Cai says Xi Jinping can punish his underlings however he wants, that's referring to Xi's anti-corruption campaign. More than 1 million officials were caught up in that campaign. But it was really about Xi purging his opponents in the Jiang faction, like Zhou Yongkang. Last year, Xi Jinping took back $500 million from purged officials. The New York Times says that under Jiang Zemin, the leader who brought China into the World Trade Organization in 2001, Ms. Cai promoted Mr. Jiang's opening of the party to more business people and professionals. But she was disheartened by the dour authoritarian ways of Mr. Jiang's successor, Hu Jintao, then even more alarmed by the draconian turn of Mr. Xi. This line is propaganda being pushed by Jiang's people, that China was great under Jiang, but then Xi Jinping screwed everything up. No. The Communist Party has always been horrible and corrupt. Jiang was responsible for creating a Gestapo called the 610 Office that was specifically designed to do this to Falun Gong, and then throw them in labor camps and have their organs harvested. And former 610 Office officials are now persecuting the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Jiang also started the massive nationwide techno-surveillance and internet censorship that's being used today. Plus, Jiang Zemin and his people violated every rule of the World Trade Organization. They stole billions of dollars worth of US intellectual property. He didn't just open the party to business people and professionals, he made it so people could get rich through massive corruption and human rights abuses. Now, I'm not saying that Cai is part of the Jiang faction. And Tsai is right when she says people are dissatisfied with Xi Jinping and the Communist Party. Tsai says that she grew disillusioned with the party under Xi Jinping. But it's important to remember that the party didn't just start going bad under Xi. It's been terrible for a long time. Speaking of factional infighting in the CCP, it's only heating up. Top party leaders just finished an intense political meeting at the beach resort of Beidaihe. And after any indulgent getaway, come the purges. Officials have been told to turn the blade inwards and scrape the poison off the bone, which sounds painful. Xi has been ramping up his purge of Jiang's people in China's domestic security forces. For more on that, check out my recent episode, Communist Power Struggle Threatens to Take Down Xi Jinping. So, the coronavirus is still out there, people. We can't let our guard down just yet. We must continue to be vigilant about wearing masks and maintaining social distancing. Unless, of course, you're in Wuhan, the original epicenter of the coronavirus, then it's fine to have thousands of people join a pool party. I mean, they don't call it the second wave for nothing. Taiwan has accused China of cyber attacks. Raise your hand if you're shocked. Since 2018, Chinese hackers targeted at least 10 government agencies and about 6,000 email accounts of government officials in an infiltration to steal important data. Important information like, why does everything have to be so cute in Taiwan? Like the cute cow that advertises beef. But some good news for Taiwan. It just opened a new diplomatic mission in Africa in Somaliland. And it makes sense. Most countries don't officially recognize Taiwan as a country. They consider it part of China. And most countries also don't recognize Somaliland as a country. They consider it part of Somalia. So two countries that maybe aren't countries have recognized each other as countries. I think they recognize a lot in each other. President Trump said he's postponed the trade talks with China.
I postponed them. I postponed talks with China. You know why? I don't want to deal with them now. I don't want to deal with them now. With what they did to this country and to the world, I don't want to talk to China right now, okay?
Okay, sorry I asked. But it also comes as new U.S. sanctions deal a lethal blow to Chinese telecom Huawei and its affiliates. The sanctions restrict any foreign semiconductor company from selling chips developed or produced using U.S. software or technology to Huawei without first obtaining a license to do so. These sanctions expand previous sanctions put on Huawei in May. Trump doesn't want to talk about it, okay? A former CIA officer has been charged with spying for China. He met with at least 5 officers of China's Ministry of State Security in a Hong Kong hotel room, where he disclosed a substantial amount of highly classified national defense information, including facts about the CIA's internal organization, methods for communicating covertly, and the identities of CIA officers and human assets. This is not the first time a former CIA officer has been charged with spying for China. Is it any wonder China was able to wipe out the CIA network inside China? Well, as the Global Times says, maybe I shouldn't overinterpret that. That's certainly what the CEO of Walmart would prefer. He hopes the US and China can get over their differences and have a more collaborative relationship.
We want to be able to do business in China.
Yeah, I bet you do. Chinese prison labor is a perfect way to keep up those everyday low prices. So you remember how the Chinese consulate in Houston was caught burning papers right before the US shut it down? And how last week, shred trucks showed up outside the New York Chinese consulate? Well, according to an internal memo obtained by the Epoch Times, they've issued orders to overseas party cells to destroy sensitive documents and safeguard party secrets. Now that actually includes much more than just consulates. China's state-owned oil giant, China National Petroleum Corporation, instructed its overseas offices in more than 10 countries to urgently destroy or transfer sensitive documents relating to overseas party building activities. How about that? Don't overinterpret it. And now it's the time when I answer a question from one of you, a fan who supports China Uncensored on the crowdfunding website Patreon. YouTube would have put us out of business by frequently demonetizing episodes, and sometimes even removing them. Somchat asks, "Hey Chris, so I was wondering, the main reason that the Trump administration gave for banning TikTok was that the company is collecting personal information of Americans. However, the practice is already widespread and well known among many US-based tech companies like Facebook, Google, and Apple. So how is TikTok any different?" Now that's an important question. All the big Western tech giants absolutely collect a lot of information from people. That's definitely not something to feel comfortable about. However, the difference between TikTok and Facebook, Google, or Apple is huge. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is required by Chinese law to give all the information it collects to the Chinese authorities whenever they ask. And China is ruled by an authoritarian regime actively collecting information on Americans as part of its unrestricted warfare campaign. It basically turns Chinese apps into weaponized spyware. Facebook, Google, and Apple don't have to give user information to the US government. In fact, there are documented cases of Apple refusing government requests. I wish Apple would be better about refusing Chinese government requests as well. And then there's what the Chinese regime does with user information. The US government isn't actively trying to hack me or send me phishing emails when I criticize it. Americans are not put in prison for criticizing Trump or Obama or Bush. And even if the NSA is secretly monitoring my activities online, it can't use any of the info it collects in a court case against me. The Chinese regime, on the other hand, actively uses this kind of information to punish its critics, inside and outside China. I hope that answers your question, and thank you for watching. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe. Even if you already are a subscriber, double check, because YouTube has secretly unsubscribed people before. And if you like uncensored news about China, please support the show on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/ChinaUncensored to see how. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.